Shalom, Israel. First and foremost, I would like to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakah Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who taught me this truth and who rule well. And a sincere salutations to the tabernacle of David. You Akim pushing this truth to the four corners of the earth in all truth, faith, and sincerity. And a healthy shalom to the Akwath who are also listening and learning. It's Zakar'Yah coming at you with another lesson, and Lord's willing, it be edifying. So the gentleman you see on the screen, his name is Michael Yon, Y-O-N. You can look at his credentials. He's being interviewed on a show called Geopolitics and Empire. And he's speaking of famine, okay, which, you know, the prophets have been week in and week out on the highways and byways and through these video epistles warning the people, okay, that bad times are coming, famine is coming, pestilence is coming, all these things are about to befall the earth. So I'm just going to play a little bit, of this video and bring out a couple of precepts and just go in the spirit, okay, and Lord's willing to be edifying.
Maybe 20,000 actually died. It was quite serious for this little country. And that's sort of the light switch famine, like on and off, right? Then there's another type, which is the type we're going into now. You just sort of slowly fade into it. It's got a slow flash to bang, right? Like I'm here, the BASF chemical plants down the road, they manufacture, nitrogen-based fertilizers, right? And Nord Stream 1 is operating today at 22%, right? Which is, BASF they've already cut back on their nitrogen fertilizer production, as has the Yara plant and many others around the world. And so we're just not going to we don't have enough fertilizer now, globally, right? There's too many people and not enough chairs for this, nutritional needs, right? So what we're looking at here is the flash to bang is quite slow. Nord Stream down to 22% today. It may go down to much more, but even at this point, there's just not enough fertilizer. So next year, as things are planted, many farmers just won't plant. They'll just, because there's just not going to be enough fertilizer. And others that do won't have enough fertilizer anyway. So next year, the harvest is going to be much smaller. There's no way around it at this point. And there's too much inertia in the system, right? And so that flash to bang is very slow. So we're talking about this very slow famine that we're going into. Last time I was in Sri Lanka, it was like plenty of food. I mean, it was unbelievable amounts of food. And then now, because of policy, globalist policy, they went organic.
Let's grab a precept because he mentioned a key word, policy. This is Daniel chapter 8 and verse 25. And through his policy, whose policy? Esau, Edom, man. Okay, these Edomites, the so-called white man, and the chief house of Edom, the nobles, the elites, okay, the Gettys, the Rothschilds, the DuPonts, these elite banking families, all right, these globalists, all right. And through his policy also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand, and he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall he destroy many. Yeah, by peace shall he destroy many, man. All right, because he's coming in like a snake saying, oh yeah, going green is the way to go. And this is the way it's more healthy for the planet, knowing the consequences of overnight taking a country or the world off of nitrogen-based fertilizer. Okay, Sri Lanka is a perfect example. Okay, I did a lesson on that a while back. All right. So,
and suddenly Sri Lanka this year is a failed state. It went from like plenty of food. I mean, it's unbelievable amounts of food. And then now, because of policy, globalist policy, they went organic. And suddenly Sri Lanka this year is a failed state. It went from very well fed because they're using fertilizers and that sort of thing to we're organic now. And you may have seen the videos of probably tens of thousands of people literally storming the palace, swimming in the president's pool, exercising in his gym. There's videos of that. It's kind of funny on that level. Sleeping in his bed, And so, I mean, the government collapsed. And not funny on that level. People, quite literally, will probably starve to death. And this is the thing about the global famine. We've never had a global famine before. The famines have always been local. So, in other words, if there was a big famine this year in Sri Lanka, I mean, normally we can fix that. Send some food over. I'm not going to let you starve to death. You know what I mean? Like, that was pretty stupid what you did on your policy, but we ain't going to let you die for it. You know what I mean? It's like, we'll just talk bad about you and feed you, but that's not the way it's going to be, because there's just not going to be enough food, and these famines are going to keep cropping up. We have droughts in the United States, droughts in Mexico, droughts in Italy and other places. We have fertilizer problems, many sorts of food and distribution problems for food.
So this global famine is being orchestrated by the global elite to bring about their new world order, in which they chip all the people with RFID microchips, and their digital CBDC, their central bank digital currency, will be tied to those chips, and they have complete control over the people. But ultimately, it's the Lord bringing in this global famine, okay, to bring about judgment upon the face of the earth. The Lord works through men, okay, just like he uses the prophets to bring out his truth. He uses the wicked, Esau, Edom, pertaining to Malachi, the first chapter, to bring about judgment on the earth, okay? Because Job 9:24 says the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. And the scripture also says when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. And when the wicked are in authority, the people mourn. All right? So that this famine is going to lead to Jacob's trouble. So let's just grab a precept. This is Ecclesiasticus in the Apocrypha, chapter 40 and verse 8. Such things happen unto all flesh, both man and beast, and that is sevenfold more upon sinners, death and bloodshed, strife and sword, calamities, famine, tribulation, and scourge. These things are created for the wicked, and for their sakes came the flood. So all these different calamities that come with the Lord's judgment were supposed to be for the wicked, Esau, Edom, and these heathen nations. But because 2/3 of the nation of Israel, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, have bent the knee to Esau's system, y'all are fully committed to it and believe in it and follow the ways of Esau, Edom, which his ways are contrary to our Lords and Saviors, you're going to take part in the judgment also. And what are going to cause, all these judgments to come about? What's going to cause the bloodshed, the strife, the sword, the calamities, the tribulation? It's all going to be brought about by famine, all right? Food, people wanting to eat, people doing whatever it takes to feed their families. So let's get back to the video. I'll rewind it a little bit. I know I've been talking for a minute.
Not going to be enough food. There's just, I'm not going to let you starve to death. You know what I mean? Like, that was pretty stupid what you did on your policy, but we ain't going to let you die for it. You know what I mean? It's like, we'll just talk bad about you and feed you, but that's not the way it's going to be, because there's just not going to be enough food, and these famines are going to keep cropping up. We have droughts in the United States, droughts in Mexico, droughts in Italy and other places. We have fertilizer problems, many sorts of food and distribution problems for food. There's just not going to be enough food globally, right? So if you have a big famine in Somalia, we can help right now. But next year, if you have that big famine, you're on your own. I mean, period. I mean, who's going to feed you? Who's going to feed Somalia when you've got California that needs food? And California, one of our largest food producers, not just the United States, but the world, is under severe drought. This is really serious. But again, normally if we had a drought, locust, something bad like that, we can get by it. Not a big deal. I mean, it is a big deal. The prices may go up and we're going to complain like crazy, but we ain't going to starve. You know what I mean? We'll make do, right? Because we're a huge food exporter. There's Netherlands, where I was just at, is the second biggest food exporter in the world. There's plenty of food to go around. And we have a lot of ships and airplanes and trains, and we'll get it squared away. You might be hungry for a week or two, but we're going to get you some food. That's not the way it's going to be in 2023 and 2024. So that's in this famines create human osmotic pressure. The human osmotic pressure, the push and pull of migration. The positive pressure is when you have a war, pandemic, famine, that sort of thing. That's positive pressure because it pushes you out. You're like, hey, there's a famine here. I got to punch out. There's a fire. I'm leaving, right? And so the negative pressure is what sucks you in. They have food over there. So positive pressure pushing me out, starvation, negative pressure, I'm going to where the food is, right? The vacuum, right? And remember, pandemic and famine and war, they go together. Triangle of death. If you get one, you get the other two every time. Pandemic, famine, war, pan for war. If you get a big famine, you're always going to get pandemic and war, with no exception. They go together. It's like a system. It's like heat goes with fire, right? And so
All right. That brings to mind another precept. This is Matthew chapter 24 and verse 6. And this is all in red letter because this is Yahushua speaking, who you people ignorantly call Jesus Christ. And he's speaking to the apostles after they've asked him, when shall the end come? All right. This is Matthew chapter 24 and verse 6. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled. For all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. And there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. All these are the beginning of sorrows. So what we're witnessing now are these labor pains, man, that are spoken about in Second Ezra, the 15th chapter. These are the labor pains, okay? And these contractions are going to continue to get worse and worse and worse. And just like he said, famine, pestilence, and war, they're all one. And we're living in the largest, or should I say the largest and first global famine of its kind. It's only right that it's going to lead to the Third World War. Okay, the war to end all wars. All right, the war that's going to usher in our Lord and Savior Yahushua. So let's get back to the video.
If you get a big war, you'll get the other two. If you get a big pandemic, you get the other two. And all of these create human osmotic pressure, right? And so, and another thing that's interesting about famine that's important for people to understand is that famine also creates famine. Just like war creates war, fire creates fire until it burns out, right? And pandemic creates pandemic. This is an interesting aspect of these. One of the ways that famine creates famine, you see increasing reports now of farmers, like this person left a comment on my locals today. She said they had a pear tree out there and somebody just robbed all of their pears. Like she said, I've forgotten, 400, 600 pounds of pears or something. I don't know. There's a lot of pears. That was their estimate. And she's very, hurt. And she's like, we may just cut the tree down. This is how famine creates famine. Not that we're in famine yet, but how food crisis, hunger feeds famine in a strange way. Because when you're hungry, there's no crime. You're going to go eat. You'll break into the store and go get some. You got to feed the kids, man. You're not going to be like, oh, well, it's wrong for me to break into that warehouse while my kid's starving. You're going to go get the bolt cutters and you're going to go get in that warehouse.
This is Second Ezra chapter 15 and verse 19. A man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread and for great tribulation.
Or that farmer over there, hey, I love him and respect the farmers. Child starving. We're going to go get the food. And so the farmers get robbed, right? And you can't blame the hungry people for doing it. They're hungry. They're going to do it. They're not criminals. They're just starving. And so,
hey, they're not criminals. They're just starving. This is Lamentations chapter 4 and verse 9. They that be slain with the sword are better than they that be slain with hunger. For these pine away, stricken through for what? Salakia, stricken through for want of the fruit of the field. All right. One of the worst ways to die, man. Starving to death, famine. All right. But it's coming to billions of people. All right.
So, but what effect does this have? What the effect that this have is it makes farmers go bankrupt or they just stop planting, right? And so now this is how famine creates famine, or hunger feeds famine, you might say. Because so that first season, you kind of slowly go into it, the hunger picks up, and then you and me, men, we're like, we got to feed the family, man. Let's get together. There's a grain storage over there. Go get your horse. I got a wagon. We're gonna go get some tonight, and then we go get it. And then everybody does it, and then the companies that do the grain distribution stop doing it, or they send the army and shoot us next time, right? And we start robbing trains, we start robbing boats, we start robbing trucks, we start robbing the farms, and now we're killing our own food supply. So now that second season, it really gets big, right? That's why you're kind of gradually going into this. So the conditions create more conditions, and then finally, at some point, usually more than 2 years. Most famines don't. Most serious famines don't last for more than about 2 years, but a lot of them do last 3, 4, 5, 7, 10 years. Just depends, right? And this one, I don't know. We'll have to see, but I think it'll last at least several years. But the question is,
Hey, yeah, we're gonna stop the video right there and end it with this. This is Jeremiah chapter 30 and verse 6. Ask ye now, and see whether a man doth travail with a child. Wherefore do I see every man with his hands on his loins, as a woman in travail, and all faces are turned into paleness. Alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. All right. And who shall be saved out of it? The elect of the nation of Israel, the 144,000 men, the elect men, and the innumerable multitude, men, women, and children of the believers. All right. So anyway, Lord's willing, this was edifying. Shalom, Israel.